In 2002, the NFL welcomed the Houston Texans into the league. The Texans' impact wasn't that it was just franchise number 32, but it also changed the entire layout of the league to what we know it as today. Prior to the Texans joining, the NFL looked like this. I know what you're thinking. What's the Central Division? The Colts were in the same division as the Bills, Jets, Patriots, and Dolphins. Cardinals were in the NFC East. The Bucs weren't in the same division as their NFC South rivals. This is chaos. And you're not crazy to think that. Prior to the 2002 expansion, the NFL divisions ignored geographic principle and only slightly resembled the league to what we know it as today. Before the Texans became the 32nd franchise in the NFL, the league faced an obvious dilemma. They had an odd number of teams. For this reason, the NFL was faced with giving teams a bye starting week 1. In addition, the league featured 3 divisions per conference made up of 5 teams, while one division, the now defunct AFC Central, featured 6 teams between 1999, when the Browns were re-inaugurated after their controversial temporary ending in 1995, and the 2001-2002 season before the NFL fully realigned. As for the playoffs, the league granted 12 teams playoff entries, 3 for divisional leaders and 3 for wildcard teams. Since 2002 onwards, the league has introduced scheduling and playoff format changes. For byes, no team had a bye during the first 3 weeks of the season or last 7 weeks of the season. There was also schedule rotation. This meant all teams were guaranteed to play each other at least twice every 8 years thanks to the schedule rotation. Before, some teams didn't even play each other for upwards of 15 years. Significantly, 4 interconference games were played between respective divisions. Moving along to the playoff format, the playoffs featured 6 teams per conference, with 4 divisional leaders and 2 wildcard teams getting entries. In 2020, the NFL expanded the playoffs to 14 teams, embracing the 4 divisional leaders and also adding in a 3rd additional wildcard team. Even though the 2002 changes made the league more organized and ensured that teams would play each other every few seasons, the playoffs still had its problems. Some significant issues associated with the current playoff format include the week number 4 seed, ranked division teams, wildcard teams going on the road, the tiebreaker situation, and the 1 seed bye. Depending how you look at it, the 1 seed bye is both an issue and a good measure. I'll discuss this in more detail later on in the video. The week number 4 seed. The most notable issue from a lot of critics is with the week number 4 seed. In any given year, there will be a team that plays just good enough to outlast 3 of their division foes, but pretty bad compared to the rest of the playoff contenders. This happens every few years, and the consequences are serious. This past season, the 8-9 Bucs were able to host the 12-5 Cowboys. In 2020, the 7-9 Washington football team hosted the 11-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in 2014, the Carolina Panthers were 7-8-1 and were able to host a playoff game. With below 500 teams enjoying a reserved spot at the all-exclusive NFL playoffs, the playoff format is broken. What's even more egregious is that these teams also have the luxury of playing a playoff game in their rowdy, advantageous home atmosphere, creating an external obstacle for the visiting top wildcard. Ranked division teams. Stemming from the last problem being the number 4 seed, the second biggest problem currently facing the NFL is with ranked divisional leaders. This also has posed a problem in the past since not every year the divisions are equal. Some years, the shared win percentage among all 4 teams in the respective division may be high, and on other years, the shared win percentage may be low. With the ever-changing power dynamics within the NFL divisions, some years are too turbulent to prioritize division winners. Take for example this past season. There were 8 teams with better records than the number 4 seed NFC South division winner Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ironically, out of the 7 NFC playoff teams, the Bucs were granted higher ranking over all 3 wildcard teams in addition to the 9-8 Detroit Lions and 8-1 Commanders, both of whom didn't make the playoffs. To further this point, let's look at division total win percentage. In the NFC, these are the win percentages among the 4 divisions. These calculations in itself prove that the divisions aren't working and are a result of a failed system. There's a clear gap between the NFC East and NFC South, 21 points to be exact, and games played against and strength of schedule aren't taking into account either, which would include a far bigger outcry. Wildcard teams going on the road. There's an old saying that is prevalent in all major sports, which is home field advantage. This saying also pertains to the playoffs. On any given year, Super Wildcard Weekend could feature a better record wildcard team traveling to play the worst record divisional leader at its stadium. Stemming from the week number 4 seed, wildcard teams going on the road is unfair to the team and its fans. Take, for example, the 2018-2019 Chargers. That year, the Chargers drew the short end of the stick and lost the tiebreaker to the Chiefs. Both 12-4, the Chargers had to venture on the road while the Chiefs enjoyed all games at rowdy Arrowhead. In the wildcard round, the Chargers got past the 10-6 Ravens. The following week, the Chargers were bested by an 11-5 New England Patriots team in Foxborough. The Chargers story is one of unfair rules. They never were able to get one home playoff game against two opponents who had worse records than them. The tiebreaker situation. Before introducing the 17-game season, there used to be the problem with the 9-7 record. Every year, 1, 2, or even 3 teams would have this record. Now, it isn't uncommon to see this when teams play a limited amount of games. The trouble is actually with the underlying policy of the NFL in handling this dilemma. Currently, the NFL states that there are several parameters that determine which teams win a tiebreaker. The first and most obvious is the head-to-head between both teams. Now, this should do it. However, on any given year, there are 6 conference teams that never play each other. If this is the case, the team's divisional record determines their fate. This is where the NFL goes wrong. Alluding to the factor earlier, the NFL should look past this metric and instead factor in the bigger picture and value the team's overall conference record. This will be a better comparative tool and bring about the best outcome, since this would only happen for a wild card spot and a chance to compete against the best from the conference. The number 1 seed bye. Byes are like an oasis in a balmy, relentless desert. They can refresh the travelers embarking on a chaotic, burdened journey or turn into a time of slacking off and the overutilization of comfort. For some teams, the wildcard bye can be that necessary rest, while for others it could be a nightmare scenario. It is included because some teams may like it while others simply detest it. Although it might be seen as an issue, the proposal that will be laid out momentarily continues the tradition of the number 1 seed bye, since it rewards the conference leader with a rest week and home field advantage. The purpose of this proposal is to make the NFL schedule and playoff format more structured and team incentivizing. Currently, the playoff format is broken and outdated, and the league should simply look to new horizons to correct this issue. The new playoff format simply involves embracing a 1-7 rank, where there is no acknowledgement of wildcard teams or divisional leaders. This format will simply include the 7 teams with the best record from each conference. This format is basically the same as the NBA, where there is a disregard of divisions and instead an acknowledgement of conference competition. If there are any tiebreakers, a simple head-to-head should suffice. If that doesn't solve the problem, or if there is a multiple-team tiebreaker situation, then conference record should be considered. If that falls through, then there should be a net point comparison. If that is unsuccessful, it will be determined by point differential in conference games, and if that doesn't work, then it goes by total touchdowns scored. And if all those don't work, it'll be decided by a best of 7 coin toss. Hence, I don't think it'll ever get there though. As for the schedule, this is where things really start to change due to the new playoff format. Teams would still play a 17-game season in a 3-game preseason. However, during the regular season, all conference teams will play each other once, while the 2 other games will be contested between tier-ranked out-of-conference opponents. A tier-ranked out-of-conference opponent is a team from the opposing conference that finished in the same tier rank as the team in the other conference the season prior. Each tier consists of 2 teams. Since each conference has 16 teams, there will be 8 tiers. We will label each tier A through H. In this format, the ranking from each team will correspond to the final standings from the season before. For example, AFC Tier A would feature the Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills, while NFC Tier A would feature the Philadelphia Eagles and San Francisco 49ers. These would be the interconference matchups that would occur during the 2022-2023 regular season. This proposal would solve the strength of schedule problem currently plaguing franchises and set up 2 marquee matchups that pin equally structured team against equally structured team. It would also do away with the imbalanced divisions and strictly focus on conference competition. It would establish an appropriate tiebreaker situation, completely dismantle the unjust playoff seedings that have impacted the past, and avoid preseason repetition that can be an issue. On top of the laid out playoff and schedule changes, there are additional clauses the NFL can consider. The Big Dawn Clause. Each city must host the Super Bowl every 29 years. Since the Chargers and Rams, as well as the Jets and Giants, share stadiums in their home cities, it will be mandatory for the NFL to grant each city a Super Bowl at least once every 29 years. This will be fair to all NFL markets and will give back to each community with economic rewards. If people have no problem braving the elements at Lambeau or Orchard Park on a sub-zero night in January, I'm sure people wouldn't care if the Super Bowl was held in an outside arena in a cold climate. Fans would still flock to the stadium and dress warmly rather than succumb to Mother Nature. Currently, the NFL favors host cities who play indoors or have a favorable climate. These past few Super Bowl cities include Phoenix, Los Angeles, Tampa Bay, and Miami. In the future, it would be appreciated for the NFL to host the Super Bowl in cities such as Washington, D.C., Chicago, or Seattle. The nationally televised clause. In 2022, the NFL was able to land every team a primetime game. However, the Detroit Lions were the one team who almost never got that opportunity until the last-minute flex of their Week 18 duel with the Packers at Lambeau. Moving forward, the NFL and their broadcast partners should include every team to a primetime game on either Thursday, Sunday, or Monday at least once. This will help all 32 franchises get a spotlight on the national stage and for the NFL to thoroughly market its product. Criticisms to the proposal. There are several criticisms of this proposal. Some critiques include lack of divisional rivalries, the disregard of the 8-year window, and schedule boredom. These criticisms are all very relevant, but there are solutions to these outlined criticisms. Although there will be 3 less divisional rivalry games per team, teams will still play each other once. Every other season, the divisional team will host each other. For example, the Cowboys and Commanders will still play each other on Thanksgiving. However, AT&T Stadium will host one year, and the next year the Commanders will host in Landover. This change may dwindle rivalries, but the opportunities are endless for the conference-wide rivalries to form. Disregard of the 8-year window. Currently, the NFL has the 8-year window where teams from the opposite conference will play each other at least twice, once home and away, over the 8-year period. This unfortunately would go away with the proposal. However, there is a solution to ensure teams will still play each other at least once every 6 seasons. The current NFL schedule is set up so that there are 4 interconference games against divisions as well as against one bonus team from a division that played the team 2 years prior. It ensures that each team will play 5 out-of-conference games during the regular season. This new proposal ensures teams will still play 5 out-of-conference games per season, except 3 games will be preseason and the other 2 will be regular season. Although this may pose a problem to some, this will benefit teams in the long run because it will solve the strength of schedule dilemma and will promote equality since all teams will play out-of-conference teams to start the season instead of already playing teams that are in-conference opponents. The final criticism is schedule boredom. Since each season, there will only be hypothetically 2 new teams on the schedule for an NFL team, fans may get tired of this really fast. Worst case scenario is that the team may get the same 2 opponents 2 years in a row. Imagine you are the worst team in the AFC, and the 2 worst teams in the NFC stay 15th and 16th place. That would mean you would play those NFC teams again. This could become a major problem with the new schedule. However, it will probably be enjoyed since teams would only play each other once a year in the regular season before a potential playoff matchup. Furthermore, this may also cause conference polarization as fan bases may lose interest in watching the opposing conference since their team will never play the other conference. Although there will be less interconference games among teams during the regular season, these matchups will come with a lot of hype. The current NFL playoff format isn't cutting it. With below 500 teams sneaking in and hosting playoff games, divisional leaders getting priority seeding, and a problematic tiebreaker formula that addresses divisional record over conference record, the league is not putting its best product out. With the NFL restructuring the playoff format to the one proposed in this video, there will be a more balanced, just, and fair format that works for every team, not a select few. It will probably take some time since the league doesn't structurally change often, but if implemented, the NFL can revamp its brand and how the game of football is evolving. Thank you for watching this video. I'm DJ Aceman, founder of the Aceman Analysis and co-host a part of Any Given Monday Morning Sports Network. Please make sure to leave a like and share this video. Thank you again. See ya!